Why is it that, from a medical point of view, the system is almost complicit in ignoring this? This is the bit that I'm trying to get my head around, because Philip mentioned it there. They are seeing it. They are acknowledging it personally, quietly to one another, that they're seeing it. But everybody is afraid to talk about this. What do you think is going on, Shankara?
I think, Philip, we're seeing, for all the people seeing this, it is a completely unknown, unseen pathophysiology in the human body. And of course, we as doctors want to explain what's causing it. So if it's something that is completely new to humanity, then we've got to look at what else is completely new to humanity, and no one wants to look there. And well, best we be silent about what it might be. So yeah, we've got a completely new type of plot that they haven't seen before. So I think there are people that are afraid that I think they at the back of the minds, they know what triggered this. And yeah, so like we're getting doctors not wanting to come out to rock the boat, they know that seeing these kind of plots is going to rock the boat.
Yeah, and Philip, you know from personal experience, because you had to think very hard about speaking about this.
Oh
What
yeah.
eventually made you take that step?
Well, someone asked me to talk about it, and I was hesitant about getting in the public eye. I mean, I would tell my family, my friends, but I made a decision that if I don't speak and nobody's speaking, where are we going to go with this? And even amongst our doctor group, we would have meetings weekly, but we would never spoke in public. And finally, it was February of 2022 is when I finally got in public, and I actually had to have armed guards, police officers outside the door because I got threats before I went into the venue to give the talk. And so I think that plays a part in it as well. And then, of course, as we know, the financial burden on the physicians. And I can excuse all that, maybe the first few months of this catastrophe is what I call it. But now there's no excuse for any physician. I mean, it's just, there's no excuse for any physician not to be speaking out about this. I mean, this is nothing hidden anymore. I mean, the data is overwhelming. The papers are overwhelming. The composition, of these rubbery clots that we've never seen before. I mean, you can't be silent anymore. But I stood out. I took that step because I knew it was the right thing that I had to do. And I mean, I just couldn't sit by. I mean, I didn't want to go public. I'm not a public person, but like every time I want to pull back, here I am again. I'm talking to someone else, but you know what? We're getting the word out. And so that's the most important thing.
And it raises a point, I usually use this example, Shankar, I'll put this to you, where I think that the clinicians are in a difficult position, because if they don't come out and speak about this, and then this is an issue down the line, they appear to be complicit. But if they do come out now and say something, they can be targeted. And they almost have no skin in the game. Why the silence?
I think the skin, like we said, Philip, the skin they have is their egos. And yeah, I think we need to get past that. At the end of the day, we've all made mistakes. If you want to accept that a mistake was made, then you got to look back and figure out why you made that mistake, and understand that you were coerced into doing this without any scientific proof. You'd have to really look at where you get your trusted information from. And so, yeah, it's a complete realignment and reassessment of you as a doctor in totality. You've remember that I think they've co-opted the medical fraternity, because we're the only fraternity in the world that can legally give someone an injection that's toxic. And so if they had this agenda to give a toxic injection to the population, well, many years ago, they started to co-opt and coerce the medical fraternity into doing exactly what you're told, or you'll be suspended. And that's where we are today.
And I think a part of it is this as well, is that the physicians that stood behind these vaccines so strongly, and I think some of them are still blinded to the facts. They don't want to believe that there's something that they gave someone that actually damage them, But I think there are those that do know that it caused damage, especially like you just saw in the UK, AstraZeneca. All these public figures are now just coming out with how much money they've gotten paid behind the scenes to be public about it, to advertise it. I don't know their names, but I saw the report. So I think it's twofold. And the medical science was not there. I mean, I was told, I've spoken about this publicly, I have pulmonary artery hypertension, and I was being seen at the major university down the street, and I survived a bout of COVID, and I knew that if it went into my lung and it hit me with the cytokine storm, I would probably be dead because I was already in failure. Okay, I was already on Lasix. I was in trouble, and after I survived that event, I asked the ID doctor at the university, and he's about the so-called vaccine, and he said, "Yes, absolutely, get it." I said, "Why would I get a vaccine? I just had a virus." Then we know that my immunity is probably good for at least some time. He says, "Oh, well, it'll help it a lot more." There was no data to show that. My cardiologist at the same university said the same thing. Go ahead and get vaccinated. I already knew about myocarditis, was already spoken about. And so it's egos. Okay. I think that's a part of it as well. So it's complicated. But again, I'm to the point now where I don't think anybody can be excused any longer. I mean, there comes a point in time where if the data wasn't there, if the studies weren't there, then I would say maybe, but it's all there. So there's no excuse any longer.
I don't know if there's anything we can do for some people at this point, even if we understood it. I think that it may be too far gone for a percentage, for a bit of the population. And even that we need to figure out. Kind of like what we know, for instance, with cancer. If you see somebody who has got metastatic disease, you pretty well know that it's going to be difficult, unless it's a very specific chemotherapy responsive tumor, that you're not going to cure them. And so, in the same way, we would need to have an understanding as to who would benefit from therapy at what point. I mean, this is a huge, huge issue that, even with the best will in the world, will take us years to figure out.
That's Philip. I think, notwithstanding the fact that there's clear obfuscation of scientific research that will get us there quickly. And it's one thing understanding the problem, it's another thing having your hands tied behind your back when you try to treat it. So the problem is not just the understanding, the problem is also the latitude doctors are allowed in actually trying to address the problem out of the box. Because I can tell you now, the normal in-the-box solutions aren't going to work because we're dealing with an out-of-the-box kind of problem. And so
Absolutely.
the pharmaceutical industry is going to push traditional medicines, and they're going to have failures, and they really don't care if it fails. So what are we going to do? Be picking up the pieces of all these misdemeanors. So I think, people need to stand up.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think as well, patients must take responsibility.
Yeah, we are so captured by the pharmaceutical industry, and until we break through that, I don't think there's a whole lot of hope, except for on what I would say on a grassroots effort, like people like yourself and the Merricks and the McCulloughs of the world, and because it's just too controlled by pharma, and with in all of our specialties. My cardiologist colleague was telling me just the other day that they have to pay now to get their journal. So when have you ever had to pay to get a journal? I mean, it's just gone. I don't know. We're just in a very dark time when it comes to our medical field.
As I said, no matter, even if we started now with everything at our disposal and the full medical community suddenly realizing and getting on board, we're still years behind the curve to find solutions and to find ways of mitigating this. But the duty of candor that we should have as professionals should force us to acknowledge that error and be able to say, listen, we should have done better. Do you ever think the medical community would do something like that?
In my opinion, no. I think I think we're making little bitty headways now, but I think that's part of a plan of something else to come. And I don't want to go down that route, but I just don't see us, as long as we're controlled by pharma, I do not see that happening, because there's got to be a profit in it for them. And until things change and until they get responsibility and liability for what they've done and it comes back on their shoulders, I see it a very difficult time getting to where what you're talking about. Now, if that changes, liability issues and responsibilities, absolutely. I never give up hope. I mean, and there's, doctors all around the world like Dr. Chetty, that I'll never give up hope and I'll never stop fighting. But as the system sits as it is, very difficult. That's my opinion.